I think it's important to point out that education of our students is a top priority of mine. There's misinformation that's being shamefully spewed that education is not top priority of this board, and that I think a speaker earlier tonight, I'm glad that he came back so that I could correct him personally and in person, Mr. Todd Haynes. I think it's important that you be corrected for your, for lack of a better term, just bold-faced lie, that I voted against making education a priority. It's a shameful misrepresentation of the actual vote. The actual vote, just to clarify, which is important to clarify for you, is we're voting on the manager's plan of work. The manager's plan of work is not education. She's not a superintendent. She doesn't work for the school board. That's the role of the school board. That's the role of the superintendent. That is not this board's role. So I think it's important that you know that and that you discontinue the spewing of your lies. Also, the county education system will continue to face shortfalls and problems until they get serious about addressing the money they spend that they receive from the county level. I have been advised that 40%, mind you, 40% of the Union County Public Schools employees are non-classroom employees. Yet, 100% of the cuts are made from the classroom. That just doesn't make sense to me, and our teachers deserve better. Now, I greatly appreciate all the many emails that we've received from parents and teachers and concerned citizens, and I want you to know that I too share your same concern, and these solutions are right there in front of us. But it's not a decision that this board can control. It's a decision that the Board of Education can control. I also want to thank Mr. Stewart for coming out. I'm excited to go home and look for his website that he has started to rehash what that is. It's www.citizensforunioncountyteachers.com, if I got it correct, because I think it changed 2 or 3 times. But I look forward to checking that out. With that, I appreciate everyone's attendance, and we'll see you next time. Tracy.
Thank you. I actually haven't had anything to say in public comments for the last couple of times. I think because I was saving it up for this one. This meeting was a meeting about our kids and how important education is. And anybody that has growing children, especially boys like I have, know that an integral part of that education is sports. And we have some great athletic organizations. You had one get up tonight and talk about some funding that they needed help with. And I have two boys that are very active. In fact, my now freshman in high school had Miss Bateman from Wesley Chapel when he was in elementary school. I don't know where the time goes. But we have a fantastic organization. I've mentioned them before, Showcase Baseball Academy. They're located in Stallings. Stallings and Indian Trail are really working to add some athletic facilities and opportunities over there with Carolina Courts and some other things. Fred Kirby Park is a park that's used by the Showcase Baseball Academy players to practice. They also come over and practice on some of the church baseball fields, and that facility and those parks that are made available to those youngsters finally paid off big as the Showcase Baseball Academy 9U baseball team went to what they call a Super NIT 32 tournament, meaning a national invitational tournament where the 32 best teams in the country get to go to the ESPN Sports Complex in Disney. And this team from our own Stallings not only is going to represent the state of North Carolina down there, but they're representing Union County because that's where they're from. So I want to just say great job. This gray hair is because I earned it watching the games because they like to make us sweat it out. But I want to say congratulations to them. I don't know how appropriate it is to call a citizen a bold-faced liar right on the television. Perhaps, you know, he doesn't interpret the information the same way you did. I'd like to offer Mr. Haynes the tapes from those meetings, so that you can hear exactly what was said. Not what I said was said, not what anybody else said was said, but what was actually said, and you can make your own determination. But I'd appreciate, you've done a lot of work, you've been at a lot of cluster meetings, not just your own, and you come down here, and I appreciate the time you've put into it. Thank you.
Jonathan.
A couple of things tonight, and I'll keep them brief, but I do want to thank all of those that came tonight to express their concerns one way or the other for school funding. For those of you that have taken the time to send us an email as a parent of 2 young kids, I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know if there's a person in Union County more disgusted by the actions of the Board of Education than I. I think the last place you start the cuts is in the classroom. You cut everywhere else and then you go to the classroom if that's what it takes. But yet we turn right around just a couple of months ago and we give 2 people over $20,000 raises because they take on more work. But when we cut the teachers' assistants and they take on more work, what will those teachers get? Absolutely nothing. That's what you call poor leadership. I don't like pointing fingers at a particular board, but when you look around the state and you look at what other people are doing in Wake County, you've got a Republican board of county commissioners and a Democratic board of education, yet they're working together to get through this gap funding. We've not heard one thing from that board. They won't come before us. I've asked them over and over and over again to get on camera so that the people like Mr. Haynes can go and look and see what we did, because we put our stuff on camera and we can be held accountable. Your Board of Education can't. You got to go pick out the minutes and hope that they get the spirit of the conversation correct in the minutes. That's wrong, folks. They're spending more of our taxpayers' money in one particular area than any other department that we fund, and yet there's no accountability. They start the school year off by sending out emails to teachers, talking to them about the short funding of education the following year. So they're welcome back to school to say, look what you're going to get next summer. And then in the spring, rather than coming and talking with us and working with us, we spend our time putting the superintendent on YouTube, talking about how bad the money is and passing out our emails to come get us to fund them. When last year we had told them this ship was going to sail. The EduJob Fund money was going to be gone. There was no preparation. We heard 3 people tonight talk about Band-Aid money. We've been through that. What are we doing differently? Let's work together. Let's find solutions. Let's see if we can privatize services. Let's see if we can get some greater efficiencies. And when we've done that, that's when we look at additional funding. But you don't go out and continue to get extra jobs and more money when you're spending money on credit cards. And we as a county don't have the benefit of the federal government of firing up the money machine or borrowing money from China. We have to have a budget that doesn't have a deficit every year. We're accountable to the taxpayers. So should the Board of Education. And yet they take the time to get all the parents concerned and send them out here tonight when truly the funding issue is in Raleigh. Do we have some money? We've got just a little bit of money, but you heard tonight with the social services building, the jail, we've got I think a $14 or $15 million in small projects here and there that we've been foregoing because we've been funding the schools. So how did we get here? We got here because of poor planning. But in Wake County, on April the 24th, Superintendent Tony Tata, senior staff, will tell the board how they will cut money from departments, steps that could include layoffs. None of the potential layoffs would affect employees based in schools, such as teachers. Isn't that a novel idea? That's a Democratic board working with a Republican board in Wake County. That's when they're putting politics aside and working for the best interest of the people in that community. And that's what we need, folks. We need a Board of Education that will work with us, not send out publicity stints to get people all upset when we're spending money like drunken sailors in the central office. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank Ms. Pam Caskey. You're doing a wonderful job over there. Every time I hear you speak, the emotional aspect, and you said something tonight I'll never forget, I don't think as long as I live, is this is not about prosecution, it's about prevention. And if we can prevent it, we don't have to worry about the back end. We don't have to worry about the pain and the consequences. So thank you for what you're doing for our community. You're the unsung hero. A lot of what you do we'll never hear about, we'll never see the faces, or we'll see them and not realize what's going on. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. With that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.